Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock.
Hey everybody, MichaelBtheGameGenie here, and today as part of Halloween Havoc I got a very special treat because we're going to revive Game Genie reviews, and we're going to be talking about not only one of my favorite games to play during Halloween, but one of my absolute favorite games on the Sega Genesis, Ghouls and Ghosts. So today, guys, we're going to be talking about Ghouls and Ghosts on the Sega Genesis. This is kind of weird for me to actually do. It's a game I never thought I would actually review, for the simple reason of, it's a great game. I think everybody knows it's a great game, and everybody really enjoys it. And I was always perplexed watching people review like these banner AAA titles, or games that have forever been long loved by the retro gaming community. But it finally dawned on me that, you know what, a review isn't just telling somebody a game's good. Sometimes it's fun just to do a look back or a retrospective or even get somebody's take on it. So I decided this Halloween, for Halloween Havoc, I was going to take a look at some of my favorite games to play during Halloween and, you know, give my opinion on them. Not everybody has played these games before. I'm sure there's lots of kids out there that are looking for new games to try, and who am I to judge what should be reviewed and what shouldn't be reviewed? I really like Ghouls and Ghosts. I'd like to talk about it. In fact, I really like Ghouls and Ghosts, surprisingly so. I did a video, took part in a collaboration video a while back for my buddy Brazzle the Gamer, and it was talking about your favorite game on the Sega Genesis, and ever since I was a kid it was always Streets of Rage. But this game actually gave me a moment of pause. I almost considered Ghouls and Ghosts. It's become that important a game to me, which is really surprising too, because I never had it as a kid. It's amazing how much I like Ghouls and Ghosts on the Sega Genesis. I mean, of course, it's an excellent game, so I like it for that reason, but I'm a creature of nostalgia, specifically nostalgia for my youth, and this game had no place in that childhood. I was a late adopter to the Sega Genesis. In fact, I never even got the system until Sega had adopted that strange two-tone red side label for its games, and I missed out on all the sweet, sweet grid action of the box art from the early releases. While I didn't own a Genesis during this period, I couldn't help but notice the cover for this game. I remember walking by it in a store and seeing it, and something just struck me about it. It was just so damn cool. But I didn't have the system, so I couldn't buy it. But it imprinted on me enough that when I found out there was a Super Ghouls and Ghosts on the Super Nintendo, with a much, and I mean much shittier box art, I bought it immediately. So I had the Super version of the game, and at the time, I thought that Super Nintendo had all the superior versions of games anyways, so no need to revisit the Genesis version once I finally got the system. Boy was I ever wrong. Both games, don't get me wrong, both games play incredibly well. It's just, the Genesis plays so much better. And by that, I mean easier. Easier is a strange term here, because I mean it and I don't. Is this the easiest of all the games from the Ghouls and Ghosts series? Yes and no. The first thing that will stick out to most people, and it's a feature I believe should have been available in every game in the series, is that now you can shoot up and down, and to me this is a breath of fresh air when taking on some of the peskier enemies or dealing with those jerks on the platforms that puke on you. Yeah, he's puking. Look at that. Puking. Gross. The multi-directional shooting becomes an essential part of the gameplay, just like the double jump in the Super Nintendo game. This is never more apparent than on some of the boss fights like this slug-type creature, who would be almost impossible if you could not shoot down. This game has infinite continues, which puts it on par with most of the other games in the series outside Super Ghouls and Ghosts, which just likes to torture me.
How the games in the series traditionally work is that there is a checkpoint halfway through the stage that you will start off from after dying or continuing. But there is an added bonus in the Genesis game that if you make it to the boss and die, you can start right back off at that boss again.
Yeah, and that is an excellent addition to this series. In fact, all video game series, there's nothing more frustrating than getting to a boss at the end of a level. A very difficult level, especially a level where you have, 1 or 2 hit deaths. Making it all the way to that boss, and then the very first time you're there, he slaughters you because you don't understand his pattern or his attacks or how to beat him. And then have to replay that level again that probably broke your mind just getting there in the first place. Yeah, starting off the boss again, that's an excellent addition. But you know what? Don't let these 2 add-ons that supposedly make the game easier, because you know what? It's not fair for me to say it's easier. This game still has the difficulty that the Ghouls and Ghosts series is known for. Trust me, it still has that difficulty.
For those of you familiar with games starring Arthur taking on hordes of the undead and evil, I really don't have to say too much about this game's difficulty. But if for some reason you've just never played a game in this series, it's hard. Really, really freaking hard. The crux of that is that Arthur can only be hit 2 times per life. Hey, better than Contra, you say. Well, Arthur doesn't really respond like Bill or Lance. Your movements are a little more labored and sluggish, so you have to adjust to that while the action is fast and frantic on the screen.
Yeah, it can be a little overwhelming for a beginner. It can be a little overwhelming for a novice gamer. Heck, it can be even a little overwhelming for someone who's played it for years. Trust me, I've beat this game before, and I still have a lot of trouble getting through level to level.
The game is frustrating in more ways than one because the levels actually aren't all that long. It's just they are so damned hard that what should take a reasonable 15 minutes to master and get through can sometimes take an hour, if not longer.
And that, friends, is why Unlimited Continues is so important. I mean, it is so important in this game.
The trick is memorization and repetition. If you played enough, any part of any level can be beat once you learn the nuances of that particular part of the stage or the enemies. There are specific stages where I was convinced the game was broken or cheating, and I was absolutely ready to quit and break everything in my house, but once I finally discovered what I was doing wrong, I felt so stupid I couldn't do it on my first try.
But that's kind of the charm of the games in the Ghouls and Ghosts series. The difficulty. You can beat one. You're very good at video games. It's a badge of honor. I mean, you're up there. And of course, if you're getting into the series and you've always found it a little bit more difficult, say you played Ghosts and Goblins on the NES or Super Ghouls and Ghosts and just couldn't get anywhere, yeah, Ghouls and Ghosts on the Sega Genesis, that might be the one for you to start with.
I said earlier that this game was easier, but that isn't really true. I don't believe that this game is easy, and if I give that impression to someone like me who doesn't pride himself as a hardened old-school gamer who lives for nothing but challenge, I may accidentally turn some people off from this when they die 200 times trying to beat the first level. I will say, if you want to venture down into the path of playing a Ghouls and Ghosts game, the Sega Genesis version is the most friendly for beginners to the series, or more casual or novice gamers.
Or people that, just kind of aren't that good at games and play them to have fun. Kind of like me.
Really, I think there is so much missed with this series, and specifically this game, that is so beautiful, as it has an incredible gothic vibe and character design that most people overlook because of the game's unblinking difficulty. The art design alone is enough to recommend this game for Halloween, as all the levels hit on many classic horror themes that are represented fantastically here. The bosses are as terrifying to look at as they are to beat, but as I mentioned earlier, thankfully you can continue right at the start of the boss fight, and really with the proper weapon, they shouldn't be too hard to dispatch.
And this, my friends, is where we insert the obligatory get the knife comment. I mean, after that AVGN review, anytime you talk about any of the games in the Ghouls and Ghosts or Ghosts and Goblins series, get the knife. You have to say it. It's rite of passage.
Not just with the difficulty, but the game doubles down on extending its playtime, because after you beat the end of the last level, you of course are sent back to the very beginning of the game to do it all again, like in every other game in the series, to play all those difficult levels all over again.
So I guess the crux of why I'm recommending Ghouls and Ghosts on the Sega Genesis today isn't just the fact that it might be the best at-home port of the original arcade game. It's not just the fact that it has become one of my favorite games on the Sega Genesis, if not my very favorite. It's that friendly difficulty. Not easy, but friendly. That'll allow you to adjust to the seriousness, learn the nuances, and get to enjoy more of the art style, the atmosphere, the characters, and fall in love with it the way that I have. And maybe then you'll want to go back and challenge some of the more difficult games like Ghosts and Goblins on the NES, or even beautiful Super Ghouls and Ghosts on the Super Nintendo. Now that you've overcome this burden in what's probably the best game in the series, you want to go back and try the other ones too, because they're all excellent as well. Anyways, guys, I just want to say thank you very much for enjoying this Game Genie review on Ghouls and Ghosts on the Sega Genesis. Welcome back, Game Genie Review, and more importantly, welcome back, Halloween Havoc. Stay tuned to the channel because I'm talking there's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot more coming this month, including more reviews, probably the most I've ever put out in a short amount of time. On top of that, don't worry, video game nostalgia is not going anywhere. In fact, I'm doubling my efforts this month, as well as some other things. So stay tuned to the channel for all the exciting things coming out. Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you next time.
Hey there! Thank you for making it to the very end of the video. If you enjoyed the video, why don't you check out one of the other videos shown here? If you really enjoyed the video, you can even subscribe to my YouTube channel. And of course, if you really enjoyed the video, feel free to check out my Patreon. It would be appreciated.